Hey, so before we start today's video, I wanted to make an announcement. I will be doing another giveaway because the channel hit 500 subscribers, which to me, I still cannot comprehend it enough. I think 500 is so much, it's so, I don't know, it's just, the fact that so many of you like the content and like to watch it and, engage with me in the comment section and everything, it means so much to me. And I wanted to let you know that I'm so thankful for you and I'm hopeful that you still enjoy the content, everything that is to come, and that it teaches you something. This is something that's probably the most important to me. So yeah, what I will be giving away is Lost Art Dark Magician Girl, because she's still sealed, and I wanted to do this because I love it so much. I love this card. I think she's so gorgeous and she's so incredible, and just because of that, I wanted one of you to have it. So if you want to win her, all you need to do is just sub to the channel, like this video, and comment. Comment anything that you're entering. Say hi, whatever, just comment on the topic of the video, whatever you want, I will enter you into the giveaway. And yeah, just thank you. Thank you so much and good luck. Hey, I'm Naya, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm joined by Luka, who got first place at our regionals on Saturday. He's a very good player and he piloted Virtual World. Hey, welcome.
Hi, very
Hello.
happy to be on the channel today.
Thank you. Glad to hear that. So, is there anything you would like to share with us about your deck? Maybe why you picked it and about your matchups and stuff like that?
Yeah, so first off, I would like to shout out the entire Team Armageddon and everyone else who helped me get this deck together because I needed to borrow it before the event.
Yeah.
And also special thanks to Teusz Kadish, who sort of invented this deck, and I just copied it from him and made it a little bit different.
Yeah, shout out to him.
Yeah. Okay, so first off about the matchups of the tournament, I played a few rogue decks, and from the meta decks I played Drytron twice, and I think that was about it. The tournament wasn't really meta heavy, but most of the decks were decent.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Yeah, let's get to the deck profile.
Yeah.
So first off, three of the main Virtual World monsters, free Lily, free Lulu, free Lava, free Gigi. That's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I need to explain this. Then two Neon, also pretty standard. And now we get to the first interesting stuff. That's one Ariel and two copies of Destiny Hero Malicious.
Okay.
So the idea of this, or first I should explain something else. If you look at the extra deck, I play one copy of Beatrice. So the idea of this is that the most standard builds, which are Tzolk'in, Dragoon, or Kaliga stuff, they can make really big boards, but they need a lot of extenders for it. And if they aren't able to make this Kaliga, Crystal Wing, Genshin, then their boards are usually weak. And even if they are also weak post siding to stuff like Dark Ruler and Droplet. So the idea of this was to play Beatrice as another disruption to send stuff like Ariel or Farfa, and Ariel is here as a replacement of Farfa because I wasn't able to get Farfa in the tournament.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were gonna explain. Yeah, when you said that you couldn't find Farfa.
Yeah, so I borrowed the deck and I wasn't able to get Farfa before the tournament, so I put in Ariel instead. I think they are both decent. I think Farfa is a little bit better, but
okay. How did Ariel perform?
Also,
did you use its effect a lot?
I used it a couple of times, and I think it worked most of the time. It banished a resource in the graveyard that would have been an extender, for example, a Drytron Bane, or I think Orcus Nightmare, stuff like that, or Eldritch stuff. It was pretty decent, I think. Yeah, I think Farfa is just a bit more versatile because there are situations in which Ariel won't do anything, meanwhile Farfa always does something. It may be better to play Ariel in certain matchups, but I think Farfa is just a bit better overall. So yeah. Okay. And I mean, Farfa also isn't a brick if you draw it, because you can, for example, going second, you can discard it off Qinglong, and then it can bait out the disruption, or you can normal summon it and then it kills itself and then it baits the disruption. Ariel, even if you draw it, it doesn't really do that much.
Yeah, true.
Or at least not as much. So yeah, that was the idea. So yeah, I went one step further of just playing Farfa as a way to disrupt my opponents, and decided to put in Malicious.
Okay.
Which the idea of which was to summon Tolkien, and as well as the standard world board, which was Shen, Beatrice, Chucha, because malicious is basically 2 level 6s, and yeah, 2 malicious can be on the board at the same time, and they can't make Tolkien. But you can use another level 6, which you would use for something else, for Tolkien or for Beatrice.
Right.
So why is malicious 2 level 6s? It's because Nyan can recycle it when it gets banished. So it's sort of it's like he would play free, and on the following turn, you can also use his effect again. Yeah, it's really good for grinding. So that was the idea, to sort of be able to play around Nibiru better and to boost the ceiling of the deck.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think malicious was pretty good in the tournament, though I think the deck works perfectly even without the malicious. If you just got malicious and Tolkien and Crystal Link, it would lead to other random cards.
But you would keep it probably moving forward with the Phoenix Enforcer?
Yeah, so that's how I actually got to the malicious. I was testing for the Bote format, and I played the Phoenix Enforcer stuff. And I also played the new guy, Denier, which is a special summon from the graveyard, and can also recycle malicious again. But I found out that so actually I have to explain this first. So if you play the Destiny Fusion, you can't play Gamma.
Right.
And that was something I didn't like, and I actually found out that Enforcer doesn't do as much as Gamma. So I cut that from that build, but I liked the melee so much that I decided to put it in this deck. And that was a funny thing, but I think it works, because I don't think you can afford cutting Gamma. I think Gamma is so strong, so that's the theory about that. The problem is that you don't have space for Gamma in the main deck. If you put in 3 Fusion Destiny and also another Guide the Denier, you need to put in 4 cards, and you don't have space for 4 cards.
Right.
So you would either need to put out the crossout and then
so it's essentially just about Gamma. Space. Yeah.
Yes, it's about space. If you would have space, then I think that would be a good idea, but you don't, so I prefer Gamma instead of Fusion Destiny. That's the idea. Okay, and yeah, so about the hand traps, as you can see, there are only 6 of them, which in this format might not look like it's enough.
Right.
But I think these 6 hand traps are perfectly fine. First off, Gamma, like I said, is really strong. It's the only hand trap that can just stop the opponent's usual turn by itself against most decks. And it's also nice because it protects your monsters from getting hand traps. For example, if you use Lulu targeting Chucha, when you have no monsters on the field, you can just, if they ash it, you have Gamma. And there are a lot of this.
Yeah, you have many cards that bait it out, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty good, and I think it's a staple in this deck. I don't think you should cut it. And for the other 3 hand traps, they are just solid, and I play different ones because I play crossout, so that I can negate all of them. And again, about the 6 hand traps, you have decent chances in game 1, and the deck is already pretty explosive and pretty good at breaking boards. So you can win a lot of games going second, even if you lose the die roll, even against combo decks. And if you lose, you have just a lot of hand traps in the side that you can just put in and then have decent chances on game 3.
Right.
So I think this is just perfectly fine. Then obviously to Italy, I think this card is nuts. Yeah, it's insane. It's just a free extender without a normal summon. So yeah.
Right.
And to crossout, it's for negating hand traps. I think it's just a really, really decent card.
How do you feel about it overall? Because people they have mixed feelings on it. So how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty good because there are a lot of hand traps in this format, and to have a card that just negates all of them, or any of them, I should say, is really nice, especially in a combo deck. I think it depends on the deck, either whether you should play crossout or not, but I think in this deck where you have enough spots to play it, I think you definitely should.
Okay.
But I do think it's worse than Call by the Grave. I think Call by the Grave is a bit more versatile. That's why I play 1 Call by and 2 crossout and not 3 crossout.
Okay.
Because Call by the Grave it doesn't negate as many hand traps as crossout, but it can negate a lot of other things which crossout can.
Okay.
And it's a bit going second. So That's the idea. So if Call by the Grave were at 3, I would play 3 Call by the Grave and 0 Crosshouse.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so the next interesting... did you want to say anything?
No, I just wanted to ask, and you proceeded to talk about Prosperity. I wanted to ask if you feel like Prosperity is better than Desires, or what's your reasoning behind using this instead of Desires?
Yeah, I want to tell about that.
Okay, great.
So the thing about Desires, and a lot of these draw power cards that you can play, for example, Upstart, Desires, or some people even play the Foolish Goods, Metal Foes.
Metal Foes Fusion, yeah.
Yeah. Which I guess it does give you more cards, and it is decent, but it doesn't give you the consistency. So the thing about this deck, the biggest problem is bricking.
Right.
And it's not really that you don't have enough cards to play or to make powerful plays. It's that you don't have cards to play at all. So the power one name gives you, which you get off of Prosperity, is bigger than the 2 random cards that you get off Desires.
Okay.
So the thing is, no matter how much draw power you put in this deck, and if you put in 6 Upstarts, it's not going to be as much as Prosperity. And you're also going to lose space for some things like hand traps. And some people might say, oh, but you need extra deck space. Well, that's not really true, because the only cards that you really, really need in this deck on your first turn are Beatrice, Shen, maybe one level 6, and that's it. And perhaps Solkin Crystal Wing if your hand's good enough. That's all you need. And everything else is just flex spots for going second and grind game.
So I guess you just decide on a case-by-case basis what you want to banish?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So it's really not that big of a deal, the banish stuff. It might hurt your grind game a little bit, but you have just enough utility cards that it doesn't matter that much. And the fact that you can draw off of Coral and Charge isn't that big of a deal, because if you can play, even if you don't draw as many cards as you would, it's usually better than if you can't play. So
right. And just like you said, the draw is random instead of you being able to dig through your deck.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so if Desires would guarantee a name, then of course Desires would be better, but it doesn't guarantee a name, and the chances of getting a name are much lower than getting it off of Prosperity, where it's almost guaranteed. So, yeah. And if you draw good enough that you don't need Prosperity, you don't need to use it. You can just play your hand and then discard it off Qinglong, because it's not mandatory to use it. It's just to boost consistency, because if now basically have 15 names, meanwhile there you would have 12 names in a 35 card deck. Now you have 15 names in a 40 card deck, which is much better.
Okay. I also remember you revealing Lightning Storm with Prosperity to out an Inspector border.
Yes. It's also really nice going second. You can just pick for your going second cards. It's pretty good. You can do whatever you want.
Right. Okay.
So, that's my theory behind it. Then for the other cards, I think pre-Kowloon is pretty standard. The thing that might not be standard is 2 Qinglong. The reason behind this is that you don't need to play 3 because you don't play Desires, so you don't have to worry about banishing it, and 2 is just fine because Qinglong isn't really a card you want to draw. It's not that bad if you draw it, but if you draw it, it's usually just for that card that you need to discard, unless you don't have anything else to trigger your names off, which is not that common. So I like playing 2 because you can send. You always need 1, of course, to send, and then you can send another one for follow-up. Or if you draw it, you can always send 1. But I don't think you need more than that. And you can just recycle it off Chucha and Nyan. So I think it's perfectly fine to just play 2.
Okay.
So I think that's it about the main deck.
The trap ratio is basic. Yeah.
Okay. So one thing I need to explain about the Beatrice engine that you might see in the side deck. So one reason why it's actually very, very good is because post siding in games 2 and 3, when you go first, you can just put in random cards that will help you which will make your board unbreakable. For example, something like that is Zombie World Banshee engine, where you can send Banshee off of Beatrice, then activate Zombie World, versus decks like Tribicate, we just can't play under Zombie World.
Yeah, or Dragon Link or stuff like that.
Zombie World just gets all of that.
Yeah.
And Another example would be sending Crescendo, which can search Cycle Reader versus Drytron, which is just pretty good. And that's why Beatrice is just nice. Oh, I timed out just a second, so that I get back to the deck.
Yeah, our Slovenian meta is not really Drytron heavy. I'm guessing that's why you don't run the Crescendo tech in the side. But it's the idea.
I would run it because Drytron is the hardest matchup, but I wasn't able to find Cycle Reader at Crescendo, so that's why I didn't play them.
Okay, you would still run it. That's fair. That's completely fair. We do have some Drytrons, yes.
Yes, and I have 2 Drytron matchups in 9 rounds, so I think in those matchups, Crescendo and Cycle Reader would have been useful. So,
yeah, this is something we should mention. We had about, what was it, like 50-something players? Did you?
Yes, we have about 50-something.
Yeah, about 50-something players. We had 6 rounds of Swiss and then Top Cut. And you went, what was your overall record?
So I drew 1 game versus Drytron, and I lost 1 game versus Sky Striker, which, to be honest, was only because of time, because I messed up the timing. I messed up when the timing was. I was completely winning in resources, and I should have just gone to the battle phase and won, but I didn't because I thought I had more time, and then I lost because I had 1,500 life points. But it didn't matter because I was in Top Cut.
Okay. Yeah, and then you, of course, went undefeated in Top Cut, so...
Yeah, I went undefeated in Top Cut. So, because the deck is pretty good.
It is, yes.
Just about the actual deck real quick, and then I think that's about it. As you see, the extra deck is basically just flex spots. It's just stuff you want for the grind game. And you can basically just put in everything you want that you think might be helpful, but my personal preference is playing the cards that you see here. And do you think I should explain any of them in detail, or?
No, we probably don't need to explain them in detail. It's just, let me see if I want to ask you anything in particular. So, for example, Cloud Castle and Phantom Fortress are something not seen as regularly, but other than that, I think it's pretty standard. So what's your reasoning behind, for example, Cloud Castle in particular?
Oh, so the thing is, when you use Vermilion, either on your first turn to get something back from the graveyard, or if you just get the grind game, Cloud Castle can be a good way to reborn the Vermilion, and then also go into the Phantom Fortress, or just reborn Shanshine and go into Phantom Fortress. And I think that's a really powerful play in the grind game, because Vermilion pops a card, then you make a rank 9 that also banishes something, and then you can also make Zeus on top of that. So it's a really powerful play when it comes up, and because I had space, I thought that I should play it. And when it comes up, it's just usually game winning. I mean, it's just really, really powerful.
And also, Vermilion is just once per copy. It's not hard once per turn. So I'm guessing you could revive it and pop again if it's something that you need in that scenario.
If it gets popped, you can then Cloud Castle, reborn Vermilion, and do that, or you can even maybe overlay it with Shanshine into Phantom Fortress and then Cloud Castle reborn Vermilion. There are a lot of these scenarios where Cloud Castle is just really, really powerful, and I mean, Cloud Castle and Phantom Fortress sort of go along with each other, but I mean, I think they are just powerful enough to play.
Okay, and also the Lancia in the side, only one is probably in tandem with Crossout. You would side it in going first?
Yes, exactly, and it's not a bad hand trap overall, but it's mainly there for the Crossout. Yeah.
Okay, and also another thing I wanted to ask is I see so many different engines run, for example, Terror Top and things like that, and many more rank 3s. How do you feel about that? Or rather, why would you choose to play rank 6s over the 3s?
So, I mean, Terror Top I think it's niche. I mean, if it were at 3, then it may be something to consider, but I think it's just a way for deck to gain consistency. Well, it doesn't really gain consistency, because if you have Terror Top and attack at Tomborg, they don't really do anything. I mean, going for rank 3s, there aren't really any too powerful. Meanwhile, rank 6s, there are like Beatrice, and also Tolkien it is a rank 6, to be fair. I mean, you need 2 level 6s.
Right.
So I would say there are a lot of things you can do with the level 6 engine, and also, I mean, you can also go into level 9. So I don't think playing, for example, Terror Top is worth it, to be honest. I think it just takes space, which you don't really, which you need.
Okay, and what about Tao Tao as a virtual world name?
Well, I think it's an interesting choice. It can come up in many different scenarios. I just don't think it is worth playing at the moment. But I played it when Italy was at one because I thought I needed another name to normal summon or to special summon. But I mean, I think it's good, but I don't think it's good enough. At least not at the moment. But if you would play Tao Tao, for example, instead of I don't know one flex slot, I think that's pretty reasonable. I think card is decent.
Okay. Wow. I'm thinking.
And just another thing. Yeah, so the break sword in the side deck is a replacement for Fortune Tune. I think Fortune Tune is a lot better. I just, again, couldn't find it before the tournament, so I just put it at random.
Yeah, you guys should have seen him like scrambling around around random people's bulk before the tournament, going like, oh, do you have a Farfa? Do you have this? Do you have that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I managed to find most of the stuff. The only thing really missing are the Fortune Tune and from the side deck, the Crescendo Psycho Reader stuff. I think everything else is...
Okay.
Oh, and of course, everything else is
of course,
the way I wanted it described.
And you said you would prefer Fortune Tune over Break Sword.
Yes. Okay. It's just a really good way to make Zeus. I don't think Break Swords does too much apart from just making Zeus. And I think Fortune Tune does that better because it's untargetable and undestructible by battle or by card effect. So it's just you just summon it and then you basically make Zeus by force, and then Zeus is Zeus.
Right, and you don't consider Downerd, right? I mean, you don't think it's worth running?
I think it's a decent card. There are a lot of situations where the Fortune Tune doesn't lose the material, and then you can make more material Zeus. I just think other cards in the extra deck are more flexible, or at least do more come up more often than Downerd. Or at least if Downerd comes up, it doesn't matter that often compared to something like Cloud Castle, which when it comes up, it's game winning. So
I've seen you use it a lot. Yes, so I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And also maybe talk about your, just to round this extra deck off, talk about your feelings on Kaliga and the entire like very combo oriented virtual world, because I've seen it run with Dragoon like a couple months back, and also Kaliga.
I have tested that version a lot, and personally I don't think, like I think I said that at the start of the video, but I don't think it's bad when it comes up. Yes, I don't think it's bad when you make it, but in order to make that, I think you need at least 3 names, and that's just so rare, and they all need to go through. So I think if, for example, that's your power play, then theoretically I think you could also hand loop them for 5-wave Gothams, and nobody's doing that.
Right.
So I would say it's a good play if it comes up, but I don't think it's that good. If it doesn't come up, you just end on a weaker board than this deck, which makes a stronger board overall. But I mean, maybe the best board possible is a bit weaker, but I mean, at the end, if you have a board that's unbreakable 95% of the time and the board that's unbreakable 93% of the time, I don't think that's a difference big enough compared to what you will need to play in order to invest in in order to make that board, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay, I know, I get your point completely. Yeah, that was very well explained. Yeah,
I just prefer the flex spot, which come up in the grind game way more than the difference in playing those cards.
All right, wow, thank you so much for coming to the channel. And maybe to end everything, do you have any advice for people maybe picking up the deck for the first time, or would you even recommend that people pick it up, or any last words on it?
Yeah, so I think this is the best deck currently, to be honest. I mean, I think it's the best choice to play. I think other decks such as Drytron and Tri-Brigade are also pretty good, but I think this one is currently the best. Maybe not this exact version, but something similar to this. Okay. And for people picking it up, I would say that when you pick it up, just play about a few hours in the solo mode on Dueling Book, because you'll misplay so much in making combos. That's the hardest thing about this deck, making combos. But after a while, you sort of just think about what you should do, and you should always just think about, okay, what's my end board here? Then try to get to that end board. I mean, if you think a little bit before making the combo in either on the link book or before or in real life. I don't. The opponent pushes you. I think you should just try to stay calm and think through your combo as long as it doesn't take a couple of minutes, because the deck is hard, to be honest.
Right.
But I mean, after you learn the basics, it's pretty simple, I think.
Right. Well, that's very good advice. Yeah, test it a lot. This is one of those decks that you need to see everything that's gonna happen with your discards, with your what you're sending, what you're ending up on. So yeah, test it out a lot.
Yeah, exactly. There are so many ways to mess it up by not having the right cards on the field on something, not being a tuner or being a tuner and stuff like that. Which
right.
So you should see everything or just learn the combos by heart. But I think that's a real commitment. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you do it, then the payoff is decent, but I don't think it's worth doing when you can just sort of know all the combos.
Right, and it's also one of those decks that teaches you a lot. Being quite a hard combo deck, it teaches you a lot about the game overall if you decide to pick it up.
Yeah, but the thing is, it is a combo deck, but it's also one of those decks that grinds a lot. The main goal of this deck is to pick a board and win, because the board is unbreakable, and that was something I probably should have mentioned about the VHS build. Right. The main goal of the deck is to make a board that doesn't lose, and that can, I mean, you can win on the spot, but the main goal is to not die and to make sure your opponent doesn't make a board that's too big to out. And then you can sort of just crack their board with stuff like Shen, which comes back every turn, and Lulu, and just sort of grind through, because I think the grind game that this deck has is better than grind game of any control deck. So that's why I think it's the best deck, because it's sort of combines the combo deck and the control deck into one deck, and it can grind. So, I mean, if you're trying to learn how to be a good player, I think this is a really good deck, because it learns you both how to play combo and how to play control.
Right. Whoa, that's, like I said, that's a very good piece of advice. And thank you again for coming. You're always welcome on the channel. And congrats him in the comment section. And also, if you learned anything, which I'm pretty sure he shared a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. So if you learned anything, make sure to give it a like and a sub. And also check out Twitch, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.